Well, I'm starting to see some little buds poking through in the garden, so I'm going to show you how to pipe spring crocus flowers straight onto your cupcake. The colour I've used for this one is Colour Splash Violet, just a little bit to make this light purple. For the stamen I've used Colour Splash Sunflower, and then the green is my favourite green, Pro Gel Olive Green. So to make these quite large crocus flowers, the piping tip I'm using is a GG810. It's got quite a wide smile shape to it, like the laughing emoji. This groove in the center here, it creates the shape. If you haven't got one of these, you can use a Wilton 80 and you'll just get more flowers onto the cupcakes. They'll be slightly smaller. You just want to make sure it's got this curved shape so you get the petal shapes. And then to add some little buds in the gaps here, if you've got some crocuses that aren't bloomed yet, you can use a number 4 round piping tip. For the stamen in the middle, I'm using a number 3 round here. If you're using the Wilton 80, then I would swap this for a number 2 round, so it's a bit smaller. And then for these spiky leaves here, I'm just using a number 4 round piping tip with some olive green in here. So the first thing you want to do, as always, is crumb coat your cupcake in green. And then you can see the flowers are quite large, and I'm getting 6 on here, and I like to have those gaps in the middle. You don't want them too squashed up together. It's too difficult to get the piping tip in there anyway. Push all the buttercream down to the bottom of the bag and make sure it's nice and tight and that you've got your hand wrapped around the bag, so you've got full control. Have your piece of paper towel handy. I'm going to start off in the middle of the cupcake. So I'm coming straight down with the piping tip, and I'm going to touch down onto the cupcake, squeeze an amount out so that the buttercream is anchoring to the cupcake, then slowly lift, stop and come off. And you create a petal like this. Then turn the cupcake. We're going to put 3 petals on. So turn your cupcake, touch down, squeeze, then lift up, stop, come off, turn the cake and put a 3rd petal in, like that. Now I'm going to put a petal on the outside in the gaps of each of these petals. So another 3 petals. So touch down, lift, stop, come off, and I'm coming right up the edges of those petals that I've already put on. So there's your first little flower on. And we'll put some around the edges now. And the best way to put them on is to start with the petal that's opposite your middle flower, just because it's easier to get round and pipe all the petals that way. So do exactly the same. Touch down on the cake, squeeze, lift, stop and come off. Turn the cake, touch down, squeeze, lift, stop and come off. And then put your 3 petals in the gaps. In exactly the same way. And you just keep going around like that. So leave yourself a little bit of a gap so that you can get your piping tip in. Always turn the cupcake, not your piping hand. See my piping hand staying in the same place. and I'm always turning the cake so that I can see it and so that it's the right angle for me to pipe at. And then the next one. Can be a little bit tricky to come in between these flowers. You've got to be really mindful of where you're putting the piping tip and where your last flower was. If it helps to mark out little circles on the cake with the base of a piping tip, of course you can do that. And then the last little flower, so you touch, squeeze, lift, come off, touch, squeeze, lift, stop, come off, and then be mindful here. Now I can't quite get the piping tip in here, so I'm just gonna put it as close as I can, squeeze until the buttercream comes out, and it will stick to the buttercream, the petals that you've already put on there. So there's all the petals done. And now in between these gaps here, I'm going to put a little bud, just to add a little bit more colour and a little bit more interest. You quite often see the flowers where some have opened and some haven't. Now I've put a bag inside a bag here. So I load up my piping tip into one bag and my buttercream into another, and then I snip the end off the bag so that I can just pop it into the piping tip like that and swap it over really quickly and easily. Pop that into that bag and you're good to go. Now because a lot of piping tips are a different size, it doesn't always work to use a coupler. So if I'm piping something with the same colour and I'm going to want two different tips, I very often just snip a bit off the end of the bag and use it exactly like this. So you always want to make sure your buttercream's pushed down to the bottom of the bag and that it's nice and tight. And then I'm going to find the biggest gap. So right, we'll put one here. I'm just going to touch down on the cupcake, squeeze to create a base, and then slowly lift up until it's the same size as my flowers. Stop and come off. Let's put one in here. So touch down, squeeze, then lift, stop and come off. I think actually I might as well put one in all the gaps here. There we go. Now for the centre stamen, I'm going to take up your number 3 round with soft yellow buttercream. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then I'm just going to put 3 stamen in the middle of each flower. So touch down in the centre of the flower, squeeze, lift, stop and come off. Touch, squeeze, lift and come off. When I'm stopping the squeeze, I'm still moving the piping bag up. I'm almost flicking it up so that I get quite a point on the end of those stamens. Touch, squeeze, lift, come off with a little flick. It's ever so slight. But it gives you a nice pointy top. So Again, always turn your cupcake so that your piping hand is comfortable. There's all the stamens in. And then take up your number 4 round with your green buttercream. And again, you want to make sure that's all pushed down to the bottom of the bag and nice and tight. Now, because I can't quite come down in between each flower and touch the cupcake with the piping tip, I'm going to go in as close as I can and just squeeze out the buttercream until it's touching the cake, and then it will anchor and you can start to lift up. And it's exactly the same motion as the stamens. And I'm going to go all the way around. And it doesn't matter if you get longer ones like that, it just adds more realistic look to it. In fact, you kind of want to make some a bit longer and some a bit shorter on purpose. So now you've got to the cake, you just touch down, squeeze, lift, stop and come off. Now my buttercream's gone quite cold because it's been in this cold room for a little while, so I'm just gonna make my bag a little bit smaller so that it doesn't burst on me as I'm squeezing. Then my hand will warm it up as well. So come in between as close as you can, squeeze until the buttercream touches the cake, and then you can start to lift up. And then when you're on this outside bit, you can touch down on the cake as you normally would. Squeeze, lift, stop, come off. It's just fiddly in the middle. And if you get a straggler like that, it's just where it hasn't touched down and anchored to anything. Just wipe it off in a bit of paper towel. So go around and cover all the gaps with some of these green leaves. Give such a lovely finishing touch putting these on. I love seeing the cake come together like this. Oh no. So if this happens to you, I've just got my piping tip on it and I'm really gently easing it off. And then clean off your piping tip before you go again. And then last little gap in here. And there you go. That's how you pipe really pretty little spring crocuses. You can mix up your colours as well. So I've only got one GG810 piping tip. So I'm using the bag in the bag, and I'm going to start off with my first colour and pipe a couple of these flowers onto the cupcake. Now I'm going to add a couple of dark purple ones, and all I've done is switched out the light purple bag and put in a dark purple one. The piping tip's in the same bag. You can have white ones as well, they look really pretty. And then this colour, I've just added a bit more of that sunflower yellow to make it a richer colour. And I haven't been washing out the piping tip either. Once you've swapped the bag over, you can squeeze out whatever of the previous colours left in the piping tip, and then you're good to go. Add the stamen. Speed this up a bit. And there's your pretty tricolour crocuses, all ready for spring.